After years of drama, betrayals, and tension behind the scenes, the unthinkable has happened. Love and Hip Hop, one of the most talked about franchises in television history. The reality tale world has just been torn apart, and viewers are in shock at what is happening, has been closed indefinitely, and everyone is blaming Rasheeda Frost and Yandy Smith Harris for a startling explosion that began. According to insiders, this wasn't just a small argument. Rather, it was a full-fledged emotional conflict that changed. The insiders stated that heated arguments swiftly turned into yelling confrontations. Threats were made, and private information was revealed in front of everyone on the last day of filming, turning even seasoned producers into unprepared parties. Fans have already flooded social media with remarks condemning it as the end of an era and claiming it was the most toxic moment in franchise history. Rumors are now circulating like wildfire that the network was forced to terminate the show due to the mayhem that transpired on set. But what actually transpired behind the scenes? Why did Yandy and Rasheeda's feud get out of hand? Is this the end of hip-hop and love as we know it? Tension had been building for weeks, but nobody anticipated it to blow up the way it did. Had already been tense following several delays in the schedule and intense arguments between the actors. But things took a turn for the worse when reports began to circulate that Yandy and Rasheeda had a private chat that supposedly reached Kirk and Mandes. People close to the set claim that Yandy had informed Rasheeda about a very private matter involving her relationship with Mandes. The information was never intended to be made public, but it somehow made its way back to Mandes, who became enraged and confronted Yandy. In the changing room, crew members described the environment as uncomfortable, almost claustrophobic, and they were surprised and emotional when she demanded to know why she was sharing their private secrets with the cast. They suspected Rasheeda of betraying her trust. On the surface, the scene was a straightforward wrap-up conversation at a cast dinner, but underneath, everyone was on edge, anticipating the ultimate confrontation, which occurred during a routine scene shot intended to include all of the key couples. Yandy was silent at first, ignoring Rasheeda's looks, but she didn't back down as the camera began to roll. She leaned over the table and murmured, "You really think I'd do that to you?" in a low voice that still captured the microphone. Yandy looked up slowly. "I trusted you," she said, her eyes already welling with tears. The room fell silent and everyone halted, staring at the two ladies as though time had stopped. Kirk attempted to step in and mumbled something about clearing the air, but Rasha snarled at him. "No, let her talk," she shouted, raising her voice. "If she's going to accuse me, she better say it with her chest." Yandy didn't back down. She got to her feet, her hands shaking, and she snapped you, while grinning in my face and hurling me under the bus. The producers attempted to delete the sequence, but the cameras continued to roll. So Mandes stood up and gently pulled Yandy back while attempting to calm her down. "Because I thought you were my sister at that point." Everything went haywire down, but Rasheeda's anger was only heightened by his presence. She accused him of faking Yandy's innocence. Kirk intervened, raising his voice, telling Rasheeda to calm down before things got out of control, but it was too late. Shouting filled the when Yandy, with tears flowing down her face, exclaimed, "I lost." Fans would later claim the leaked recording captured one of the most emotional moments in hip-hop and love history. Room dishes were knocked away, drinks spilled, and crew workers hurried in to separate the actors. Rasheeda retaliated, accusing her of being phony, and accused her of playing the victim. After the scene was cut off, production went into crisis mode, and some cast members walked off set. Refusing to, security was called in to take individuals to their trailers as filming continued, and several producers were spotted fighting in the corridor, clearly upset and unsure of what to do. The atmosphere was poisonous, and this felt like personal gossip rather than the normal drama. Within hours, there were speculations on social media that the actors had left the set. Fans were already making assumptions about the incident, and videos of the altercation would be altered to reflect the whole truth, and Rasheeda allegedly declined to record any more confessionals. Yandy, devastated and emotionally spent, left the set without talking to anyone. Her team later stated that she wasn't in a state of mind to finish the project. Network officials flew in to mediate the situation after the team convened emergency meetings. They feared that things were getting out of hand and wanted to salvage the season, possibly reshooting the last episodes. But the cast wasn't having it, and their trust was damaged. Before the editors had a chance to rewrite the story, friendships were broken, and worst of all, the audience had learned about it. The damage was done, and crew workers were instructed to halt all planned shoots. Emails were sent out informing everyone to wait for more information. According to some insiders, the producers had even begun assembling old material for a potential alternate conclusion that would wrap up the series without requiring the actors to return to set. However, the larger problem wasn't the footage. Rather, it was the aftermath that had begun as a straightforward betrayal of trust between two close co-stars and had grown into a scandal that threatened the entire program. Friends turned into rivals, alliances changed, and loyalty was questioned. The Love and Hip Hop family was no longer together. When Yandy was sitting by herself in her trailer, wiping away the remainder of her makeup with tears, she said to someone off camera, "I can't do this anymore." Those remarks, which were later leaked to a gossip blog, triggered shockwaves. Many fans thought it was her unofficial departure from the show. But when Rasheeda was seen leaving the lot with Perk, dodging questions from reporters positioned outside, fans flooded social media with conjecture, attempting to put together what had transpired. However, the truth was that nobody could have predicted how far this would go, or that just hours later, a choice would be taken that would stun the whole entertainment world, not just the cast. The formal announcement that Love and Hip was being filmed came shortly after midnight. Hop was to be banned indefinitely. Production was halted. Cast members were told not to speak to the media, and all behind-the-scenes material was temporarily blacked out. However, industry insiders shared the damage within minutes of the decision. The story quickly went viral, as images of private emails and private conversations appeared in blogs, gossip pages, and fan accounts. Rumors of Love and Hip Hop cancellation, as well as the show's demise due to the conflict between Yandy and Rasheeda, were all over the place. According to reports, one of the assistant producers broke down in tears as panic broke out within the production trailers, stating she had never witnessed anything like it in her 10 years with the franchise. Executives were frantically trying to control the situation, but every minute brought more chaos. Earlier in the day, someone leaked raw, unedited film of Yandy and Rasheeda's emotional outburst, which included Yandy screaming, "This ain't no storyline, this is my real life." The video was reposted. Fans demanded more after seeing the actual drama hundreds of times before it was removed. But the damage was irreparable. He was incensed, accusing production of letting things go out of control and taking advantage of his family for ratings behind closed doors. He threatened legal action, saying the leaked video breached his contract. Meanwhile, She remained silent, posting nothing on social media, making no statements, and avoiding any radio contact. Her team sent out a vague message requesting privacy, which only fueled the fire Rasheeda. I'll tell you, I didn't betray anybody. I told the truth. If that's a crime, then I'm not hiding anything. However, the following morning, she took to Instagram Live, sitting next to Kirk in their kitchen. She was clearly fatigued, but she remained stubborn. Nevertheless, with over 200,000 viewers in the first 5 minutes of the live stream, fans poured in comments, some praising her, and others accusing her of being the reason the show failed. Kirk attempted to defuse the situation by claiming that they were merely defending themselves, stating, "We've been quiet, too lengthy." He continued in a calm but forceful tone, "There's more to this story than you'll know." However, each word they spoke appeared to exacerbate the situation, and more cast members began to weigh in. One of the more recent Atlanta cast members wrote in a series of cryptic tweets, a former cast member, and that the network had been concealing information for years. Fans were shocked to learn that what began as a single dispute had sparked a chain of events that had everyone talking. Old interviews in which cast members alluded to the beginnings of tension editors had previously, producers frequently pressed emotional buttons to record more intense situations. According to anonymous show workers, one even alleged that a producer urged Rasheeda to face Yandy that day in the hopes of creating a powerful moment rather than a complete breakdown. Network executives called a high-level emergency conference as the drama played out in public. On the one hand, they were conflicted because the scandal had brought the show unprecedented publicity, and social media was ablaze, with even mainstream sites picking up the story. For the first time in years, there was serious discussion about whether the program should be permanently shelved by day 3 of the pandemonium, and the reputation of the show was at risk. To make matters worse, the cast's safety and emotional health were also in jeopardy. Turned into a blowout, Dylan Cease declined to answer any of the producers' calls, and Yandy's family issued a statement claiming that she was experiencing anxiety as a result of the pressure and harassment she was subjected to from the media, as well as the show itself. Rasha cancelled all of her press appearances, and Kirk wrote a lengthy response, claiming that their family was being blamed for something they didn't start, while fans kept taking sides and starting whole threads that examined every moment of the released video, highlighting body. It had escalated into a full-fledged online probe due to language, tone, and even background rumors. But the most startling turn of events occurred on the 4th day, when a staff member published an internal document from the network's senior reality executive. In the programming memo, it was announced that all post-production and production activities for the current season of Love and Hip Hop would be halted immediately due to unrecoverable cast conflicts and public disclosure of internal content. Fans were devastated, some were incensed, and others lamented the end of what had evolved into more than just a show. It was part of the end of the world. The words unrecoverable hit hard, and the pause lasted endlessly. Even though no one used the term cancelled, Love and Hip Hop has led fans to see the unvarnished, messy, emotional journeys of musicians, entrepreneurs, and couples attempting to succeed in the industry for more than 10 years. But the very thing that made it so wonderful, the authenticity, was stripped away. In the midst of the sadness and bewilderment, reports of even more drama started to circulate. According to some sources, the conflict between Yandy and Rasheeda predated the leak by months, supposedly involving a covert business transaction that broke down. Other sources said that Kirk and Man before the greatest bombshell yet, an unverified report that a violent brawl had taken place after recording was shut off and that someone needed to be escorted. VC said that the women's foul was merely a symptom of a wider riff off the lot by security. The network declined to comment on the report, but fans were already rumoring that Kirk had swung on Mandy's and that Yandy had slapped a producer. None of these claims could be verified, but in the world of in-reality tea, the story was more important than the fact, which was that hip-hop and love had collapsed under the weight of their own drama. However, the question of what had transpired at that last meeting when production was halted remained. And why did everyone involved suddenly feel so hesitant to speak on the record behind closed doors? The hush was so loud that producers were told to turn off their phones, and legal teams started phoning each cast member individually to issue firm warnings not to remark. The network panicked because they had already gotten cease and desist letters from Yandy's and Mandeshi's legal teams, and they were instructed, do not post, do not engage. It felt like a gag order, citing mental distress, a violation of safety, and character defamation. Insiders claim that Yandy had completely collapsed following the fallout, shutting herself in a hotel suite and going over 24 hours without eating or talking. Meanwhile, Rasheeda wasn't doing much better. Although she maintained her strong demeanor in public, people close to her claimed that she wept herself, set up a private meeting with the network to request their version of events. But the harm had already surpassed any apology or explanation, and the internet had taken over. Nothing could stop the indignation and conjecture that swept through. DC's title about his part stayed silent, but his silence said a lot. Fans saw that he had deleted all of the show's promotional posts from his page, making a subtly loud statement. Some started to term it a digital divorce from Love and Hip Hop, while others thought he was getting ready to sue. One site claimed to have documentation proving that Yandy and Mandeshi's were in negotiations with a rival network to create a tell-all documentary. Whether this was true or not didn't matter. Viewers were captivated, and just when they thought the story was at its height, a startling audio clip surfaced. Turned found a fan account that purported to have a leaked phone conversation between a staff member and a friend that was surreptitiously recorded the night the last episode was filmed. In the audio, the crew member detailed the tense, dangerous situation where security had to separate. Even though the veracity of the audio was never verified, viewers believed it when Mandys and Kirk, with their voices raised and items flung, remarked, "I thought somebody was going to get hurt," implying that it wasn't just a disagreement, but a fight. The video went viral right away, scrutinized each phrase in an attempt to identify the voices and connect them to earlier behind-the-scenes conversations, because people were frantic to find out whether things had truly become that violent and if Kirk and Mandys had truly stopped talking while the cameras were still running. If that's the case, why wasn't that featured on the video? Some sources said that it was taped, but that part was hidden away forever because of legal pressure and network liability. Others hinted that there was a secret reel that was dangerously raw and unedited. After a flurry of demands from fans, including the use of hashtags like Chokum Release Stated Genuine and Choco Love, someone eventually broke through when a long-retired former editor stepped forward anonymously in a podcast interview. When asked if the producers understood exactly what they were doing when they planned that final sit-down between Yandy and Rasheeda, he revealed his identity through a disguised voice and answered, "They knew it would blow up. They always do. It's how the show stays alive." His response was terrifying. But they went too far and forgot that these are real people, not just fictional characters. Fans were furious that what had begun as clumsy amusement had devolved into something far more Mandy's as they negotiated life after Love and Hip Hop. According to a source, Rasheeda had been given a solo program that would focus on her healing path. It was unclear whether any of this would ever happen, but in the realm of reality too, endings are never truly the end, and viewers remained curious about how. How did a straightforward argument between two women escalate into a televised collapse that brought down an empire? The truth appeared to be hidden beneath layers of contracts, emotions, and secrets. But somewhere in that stillness, something still didn't match up. The stillness that followed was the type that shouts fans long for. Cast members ghosted, producers went into the shadows, and yet a storm was still forming in the midst of all this noise and absence. What no one anticipated was someone else speaking up, someone who would say, "I'm done protecting people." Carly Red, who had been quiet for years and knew both Yandy and Rasheeda better than most, suddenly went live. Her words sliced deeper than any sword, and her tone was frigid, and her face was bare. The truth is that this fallout has been developing for years. Hundreds of people watched live as she revealed all the allegations that Yandy and Rasheeda had been fabricating their character. Who wouldn't do the same for me? Friendliness for the cameras, their spouses' inability to tolerate one another, and the fact that ancient grievances had never been resolved. They played sisters on TV, but off camera it was war. As if that weren't enough, Carly said one more thing before cutting the stream off. One scenario, which was never broadcast, saw Rasheeda accusing Yandy of leaking private text messages to a gossip blog. Carly claimed that this is what caused Kirk Snap followers to go crazy, and the live stream was republished worldwide within minutes. The headline caused blobs to go viral. The phrase, "Carly Red exposes the real cause of the Love and Hip Hop shutdown." People were studying every moment of her video, taking screenshots, examining pauses, and looking for lies. Although she didn't answer explicitly, after a few hours, Mandy shared a quotation from this story. "The loudest person in the room is usually the most guilty." It had no name or tag, but everyone knew who it was directed at, and Kirk wasn't quiet either. He also shared a photo of him and Rasheeda from 10 years ago, titled "Real Love Don't Need an Audience." There were no names or hashtags included, but it was enough to have everyone wondering again. At this point, the show's shutdown didn't even feel mysterious. Rather, it felt like an avalanche that had been fans started re-watching episodes, claiming to have noticed subtle digs, red flags, and signals that they had missed the first time around. Take a look at Yandy's gaze on Rasheeda, as more and more secrets emerged every day. However, Kirk is apparently incensed that the company he helped create was permitted to use his creative control, and for good. Rasheeda is reportedly considering offers from other reality platforms. Neither woman has consented to do any more symbol. Episodes break apart so publicly and shamefully, but the biggest bombshell was an email that was purportedly leaked from a key executive. The document detailed internal preparations to formally conclude the current season with a farewell special, not a reunion, redemption storyline, but a full closure episode. The email's subject line stated, "End of an era." The special would include voiceovers of key cast members who would highlight previous highlights, and a final message thanking fans for their years of support. When stated that it was improbable that Yandy and Rasheeda would be involved. As a result, the show that once dominated Monday night is now in ruins, with a cast split, a fan base devastated, and two ladies, Yandy and Rasheeda, who entered as sisters and left as strangers. And their fallout not only destroyed the internet, but also the show. Although some fans continue to hope that it's all a big publicity gimmick, they know better because they've seen and felt too much. The truth is that some things will never be. As the world watches this chapter come to an end, one thing is certain: reality TV may never be the same again. Even if certain friendships cannot withstand treachery, no matter how many seasons they endure. Other wounds, however, cannot be disguised by music or slow-motion video. Now that the dust has cleared, and the cameras have stopped filming, and the actors have stopped talking, what do you think actually transpired behind the scenes? Was this just another failed reality tease stunt? Or did love and hip-hop play a role? Eventually went too far, allowing genuine suffering to burst on screen for the world to witness. Was this the result of the producer's manipulation? Or was the fallout between Rasheeda and Yandy always waiting to explode? We've witnessed betrayals, blowouts, and breakdowns before, but nothing like this. Shut down a whole program that is history, and both women's silence, because fans are still startled, their emotions are still raw, and we're all still looking for answers. But we want to hear from you now, more than the yelling that went on set. Do you support Rush's truth, or do you think Yandy was correct to expose the show's manipulation? Please share your opinions in the comments section. This isn't just a 10-minute moment anymore. It's a pop cultural earthquake, and your voice matters. Because we promise that the drama doesn't end here, there are still more exclusive updates, behind-the-scenes tea, and bombshell confessions on the horizon. If you were captivated by this tale, please hit the like button to show your love, and remember to subscribe. Turn on your alerts so you never miss the next incredible chapter. Because if this is truly the last one, you had best believe that Love and Hip Hop, the way it ended, will be discussed for stay attentive, stay locked in, and as long as never stop drinking that tea.